I woke up to silence on Christmas morning. Not the peaceful kind of silence that comes before a family stirs awake, full of anticipation and warmth. This was the hollow silence of an empty house, the kind that presses against your eardrums and makes your chest tight with a knowing you don't want to acknowledge. I lay in my attic bedroom. Yes, attic. Not some charming converted loft, but an actual unfinished attic with exposed beams and insulation showing through gaps in the drywall, and stared at the ceiling. My phone read 6:47 a.m. I'd been conditioned over 18 years to wake early on Christmas. Old habits from when my father was alive, when Christmas meant hot cocoa before dawn and his warm laugh as he helped me sneak downstairs to peek at presents. That was 10 years ago, a lifetime ago. I pulled on my threadbare robe against the December cold that seeped through the poorly insulated walls and made my way downstairs. Each step on the narrow attic stairs creaked under my feet, announcing my presence to no one. The main house was dark, not a single light on, no smell of cinnamon rolls or coffee. No wrapping paper crinkled, no voices. The living room stopped my heart. The Christmas tree stood in the corner, blazing with lights on a timer, surrounded by precisely arranged presents. I walked closer, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floor my mother had insisted I polish by hand last week, while my stepsister Melissa got her nails done for her boyfriend's family dinner. Every present had a name tag. I picked them up one by one, my hands beginning to shake. To Melissa, love mom and dad. To Brandon, love mom and dad. To my darling husband, Richard, all my love. Jennifer, to Jennifer, with love from Richard. I went through every single one. 47 presents under that tree. Not one had my name on it. My throat closed up. I walked to the kitchen in a daze, and that's when I saw it. The note on the refrigerator, held up by a magnet shaped like a palm tree. Melissa got upgraded tickets to Turks and Caicos, leaving today instead of the 26th. Villa has room for all of us. Back January 2nd. There's frozen dinners in the garage freezer. Merry Christmas. No signature. Not even love mom. Just instructions on where to find my frozen meals, like I was a pet they'd left behind. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands and checked the family group chat I'd been muted in months ago. I had to manually navigate to it now since their messages never sent me notifications anymore. The chat exploded with messages starting at 4:30 a.m. Melissa, OMG, you guys, Brandon surprised me with an upgrade. First class baby. Mom, this is gonna be the best Christmas ever. Richard, don't forget to grab my sun hat from the closet. Richard, got it, babe. Brandon, you're the man. This is incredible. Brandon, only the best for my family. Christmas in paradise. 43 messages, pictures of them at the airport, champagne in the first class lounge, selfies with their boarding passes. Melissa's Instagram story showed her laughing in her seat, captioned, "Starting Christmas right with my people." Blessed hashtag matamwa. Family hashtag first class. I wasn't in a single photo, not one. They hadn't just forgotten to wake me up, they'd forgotten I existed. I walked back upstairs in a daze, past the family photos lining the wall where I'd been systematically removed over the years, cropped out, turned toward the camera just as it clicked, accidentally blurred. The most recent family portrait taken last month didn't include me at all. When I'd asked Mom about it, she'd said, "Oh, you were at work. We couldn't wait." I worked at the grocery store where she'd insisted I get a job the day I turned 16, even though Brandon had never worked a day in his life and just got his third car for his 21st birthday. Back in my attic room, I sat on my bed, a thin mattress on a metal frame they'd pulled from the garage, not even a real bed. And I did something I hadn't let myself do in years. I cried, not pretty crying, big, ugly, body-shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep in my chest where I'd been stuffing down every hurt, every slight, every moment of invisibility for the past 8 years. Since my father died and my mother remarried and I became something less than family. Something more like an unpaid servant who occasionally got fed. And that's when I saw it, poking out from under my mattress where I'd hidden it 2 weeks ago. The letter, the one that had arrived addressed to me at my grocery store job because I'd never given them my home address for exactly this reason. Dear Miss Eleanor Whitmore, we represent the estate of your paternal grandmother, Catherine Whitmore, who passed away on November 3rd of this year. My hands had been shaking too hard to read the rest of it then. I'd shoved it under my mattress, terrified someone would find it, terrified to hope. I pulled it out now, smoothing the expensive cream-colored paper, and read it through my tears. My grandmother, my father's mother, whom I hadn't seen since his funeral because my mother had cut off all contact with his family, had died, and she'd left me everything. The letter detailed a trust fund my father had established before his death, one that had been growing for years. Account numbers, contact information for the law firm managing the estate, instructions to call them immediately upon my 18th birthday, which had been 3 weeks ago. A birthday no one in this house had acknowledged. The trust was worth $2.4 million. But that wasn't all. The letter mentioned my grandfather, James Whitmore, who was still alive, who had been trying to find me for years, who wanted to hear from me. I was holding a lifeline in my shaking hands, and I hadn't even realized I was drowning until just now, in this cold attic room on Christmas morning, surrounded by silence. I looked around my room, at the cracked walls, the single, dim bulb, the garbage bags full of clothes because they'd never bought me a dresser. At the textbooks I'd bought used with my grocery store wages because college isn't for everyone, Eleanor, and frankly, you're just not that smart, according to Richard. At the acceptance letter to Columbia University I'd hidden in my notebook, the one I'd earned with straight A's and a perfect SAT score I'd studied for in secret in the grocery store break room. The acceptance letter I could never use because I had no way to pay for it. Maybe I did now. I picked up my phone and pulled up the number from the letter. My finger hovered over the call button. It was 7:30 a.m. on Christmas morning. I should wait. This was inappropriate. I pressed call. A man answered on the second ring, his voice alert despite the early hour. Martin Chambers, Chambers and Associates. My voice cracked. I cleared my throat. My name is Eleanor Whitmore. I received a letter about my grandmother's estate. Silence. Then quietly. Eleanor, oh my God, we've been trying to reach you for weeks. Your grandfather has been out of his mind with worry. Hold on. I heard rustling, a door opening, raised voices. James, it's her, it's Eleanor. More noise. The phone being grabbed. Then a voice I barely remembered, weathered with age but warm. So warm it made my chest ache. Ellie? Baby girl, is that you? I broke down completely. Act 2, the exposition. Tell me where you are right now. My grandfather's voice was tight with controlled fury as I finished explaining, through hiccuping sobs, where I'd been for the past 8 years. I'd told him everything. How Mom met Richard 6 months after Dad's funeral. How she'd said we needed a fresh start, needed to move on, needed to accept this new family. How she'd slowly cut off all contact with Dad's side of the family, claiming they were trying to steal you from me and poisoning you against your new father. How I'd believed her at first because I was 10 and she was my mother and I didn't know any better. How the changes had been gradual at first. Melissa and Brandon got the bedrooms with attached bathrooms. I got the smallest room. Then they needed that room for Brandon's gaming setup. The attic would do for me. Melissa needed new clothes for school. I could wear hand-me-downs. Brandon needed a car to get to soccer practice. I could take the bus. They were going on vacation. I should stay home and catch up on chores. By the time I was 13, I was doing all the cooking and cleaning. By 15, I was working to buy my own necessities, clothes, school supplies, even food beyond the basic staples they provided. By 16, when I got my grocery store job, I was paying them rent to live in my own attic. She charged you rent? Grandpa's voice could have cut glass. At $300 a month. She said it would teach me responsibility, build character. I laughed bitterly. Meanwhile, Brandon just got a Tesla for his birthday, his third car. Mom said he deserved it because he got into his father's alma mater. What about you, Ellie? Where did you get into school? I hesitated. Columbia, early admission, full academic scholarship for tuition, but I'd still need to cover room and board and expenses. About $20,000 a year. I'd been trying to save, but I trailed off. After rent and buying my own food and necessities, I had maybe $3,000 total. And Mom had been talking about raising my rent to $500. Columbia. His voice was thick with emotion. Your father went to Columbia. Did you know that? I did. I touched the worn Columbia t-shirt I was wearing, one of the few things of Dad's I'd managed to hide when Mom had donated all his belongings. I barely remember him, but I remember he wore this shirt all the time. He told me stories about the campus. I kept it hidden. Eleanor, listen to me very carefully. You are not spending another night in that house. Do you understand me? I'm sending a car for you right now. Pack everything that matters to you. Everything. Don't leave anything you care about behind. Grandpa, they won't be back until January 2nd. I have time. No. His voice was firm. You're my granddaughter. You're James Whitmore's granddaughter, and you're coming home. Right now. We've lost 8 years with you because of your mother's cruelty. I'm not losing another minute. James Whitmore. The name had been living in the back of my mind for years, a half-forgotten dream. I'd been so young when Dad died that I'd barely understood who my grandfather was. Just a tall man with kind eyes who'd held me while I cried at the funeral and whispered, "We've got you, Ellie. We'll always have you." Then Mom had moved us 3 states away, changed her number, and told me that Dad's parents didn't want to see me anymore, that they blamed me for his death because we'd been on our way to my dance recital when the drunk driver hit us. Dad died. I survived with barely a scratch. For years, I'd carried that guilt, believing they hated me. You never blamed me? I whispered. For Dad? What? Ellie, no, never. Your father loved you more than life itself. His last words to the paramedics were to make sure you were okay. Blaming you would be like blaming the sun for shining. We've been trying to find you for years. Your mother made it impossible. Moved without leaving a forwarding address, changed her name in the marriage, got a restraining order claiming we were harassing her. We had private investigators searching, but you'd essentially vanished. And then when your grandmother got sick, she made me promise to keep looking. The trust fund your father set up, we'd been adding to it every year, hoping that someday... His voice broke. I pressed my hand over my mouth to hold back another sob. All those years, all that loneliness, all that belief that I was unwanted, unloved, a burden to everyone around me. And somewhere out there, I'd had a grandfather who'd never stopped searching. The car will be there in 90 minutes, he said, his voice steady again. Driver's name is Marcus. He's been with our family for 30 years. You can trust him. Pack fast and light. We'll get you anything you need. Do you have a computer, phone charger, important documents? I have my birth certificate and social security card hidden. My phone. Some clothes. That's about it. I looked around my attic room. There's not much here I want to keep, except Dad's shirt and some photos I saved. That's all you need. Ellie, he paused. When you get here, when you see the house, you might be overwhelmed. Your grandmother never stopped preparing for you. Your room has been ready since the day you disappeared. 73 minutes later, I was standing on the curb with a single duffel bag and my school backpack when a black Mercedes pulled up. A distinguished black man in his 60s stepped out, and his professional expression crumbled the moment he saw me. Miss Eleanor, oh, honey, Mr. James showed me your picture. You look just like your daddy. He pulled me into a gentle hug, and I realized I was crying again. Let's get you home. The drive from my mother's house in the shabby subdivision to my grandfather's estate took 45 minutes and crossed from one world into another. The houses got bigger, the lots more spacious, the gates more imposing. When Marcus finally turned down a tree-lined private drive, I pressed my face to the window. The house, the estate, rose out of the landscape like something from a movie. Not ostentatious, but stately. Beautiful. Old stone and tall windows and gardens, even in winter, that promised spectacular life in the spring. This is where Dad grew up? I breathed. Yes, ma'am. And where your grandmother hoped you'd grow up too. Marcus pulled up to the front entrance where an elderly man stood waiting, his white hair bright in the winter sun, his tall frame slightly stooped with age, but his eyes were exactly like my father's. I was out of the car before it fully stopped, running, and then I was in my grandfather's arms and he was holding me like he'd never let go, saying my name over and over. Ellie, my Ellie, you're home. You're finally home. We went inside and he was right. I was overwhelmed. The house was beautiful, warm, lived in despite its size. And there was a room, my room, decorated in soft blues and creams, with a 4-poster bed and a window seat overlooking the gardens and bookshelves already filled with classics. A desk with a brand new laptop, a closet full of empty hangers waiting. Your grandmother picked everything out 8 years ago, Grandpa said softly from the doorway. Chasa. She updated it every few years, trying to guess what you'd like as you got older. She never gave up hope that you'd come home. On the nightstand was a framed photo I'd never seen. My father as a young man holding a baby, me. His face was radiant with joy. She wanted you to know he loved you, Grandpa said. Every single day. That first Christmas, my real Christmas, was quiet. Just me and Grandpa and Marcus, who turned out to be more family than employee. We had dinner, nothing fancy, just roast chicken and vegetables and pie, and we talked. Grandpa told me stories about Dad, about my grandmother, about the 8 years of searching. Your trust fund, he said after dinner, as we sat by the fire. Your father set it up right after you were born. He was smart, your dad. He insisted on something your mother couldn't touch if anything happened to him. It's been growing all this time, investments, compound interest. By the time you're 25, when you get full control, it'll be worth close to $4 million. My hands froze around my cocoa mug. $4 million. Your father wanted you to never have to depend on anyone. To have choices, freedom. His expression hardened. If I'd known what your mother was doing to you, what she'd let that man and his children do to you. She doesn't know about the trust fund, I said slowly, realization dawning. Does she? Your father specifically structured it so she couldn't access any information about it. She knew he'd set up something for you, but not the details. Given how completely she cut us off, I doubt she remembers it exists. He looked at me carefully. What are you thinking? I was thinking about my mother's face when she'd handed me the eviction notice 2 months ago. Yes, an actual eviction notice for my own attic room, saying that when I turned 18, I'd need to find somewhere else to live because Brandon's band needs a practice space. I was thinking about Christmas morning and 47 presents that weren't for me. I was thinking about 10 years of being invisible. I'm thinking, I said carefully, that they're going to be very surprised when they get home and find me gone. Grandpa's smile was sharp. I like the way you think. Your father would be proud. Act 3. The turning point. I spent the next week in a daze of luxury and love I'd forgotten could exist. Grandpa took me shopping, and for the first time in 8 years, I got new clothes that actually fit, that weren't from the clearance rack or Melissa's rejects. He took me to get my hair professionally cut instead of the drugstore trims I'd been doing myself. We went to the eye doctor, and I got contact lenses to replace the broken glasses I'd been wearing since sophomore year. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Not because I looked so different, but because I looked cared for. Healthy. Like a person who mattered. You look like your grandmother, Grandpa said, his eyes misty. She would have adored you. But beneath the comfort and care I was planning. On December 30th, I sat in the study with Grandpa and Martin Chambers, the estate lawyer, reviewing documents. Your mother hasn't tried to contact you? Martin asked, making notes. She doesn't know I'm gone. They get back day after tomorrow. I'd been monitoring the family group chat. They were having a wonderful time. Melissa had gotten engaged to Brandon on the beach. There were hundreds of photos of their perfect vacation. Not one person had mentioned me. And you're sure you want to do this? Grandpa asked gently. Eleanor, you don't have to confront them. You can just disappear, live your life. Sometimes the best revenge is success and happiness. I know. I straightened my spine. But Grandpa, she kept me from you for 8 years. She let me believe you blamed me for Dad's death. She made me pay rent to live in an attic while she showered her stepchildren with everything. She forgot me on Christmas. My voice hardened. And she did all of it while spending money that was meant for me. Martin looked up sharply. What do you mean? Dad had life insurance, right? From the accident? Grandpa nodded slowly. $500,000. It was meant to be split between you and your mother. College fund for you, living expenses for her. She told me the insurance barely covered the funeral, that we were struggling, which is why we had to move to a more affordable area, why she had to remarry quickly, why there was never money for my needs. I pulled out my laptop, my new laptop, and turned it around. I did some digging. Want to know what I found? On the screen was my mother's Facebook profile, which I'd never been allowed to see. Her posts were public and they painted quite a picture. Posts about renovating her kitchen, $50,000, according to the comment where she'd complained about contractors. Brandon's cars, all purchased outright. Melissa's tuition at a private college, $70,000 a year. Yearly luxury vacations, designer handbags, the diamond ring Richard had upgraded for their 5-year anniversary. She spent it all, I said flatly. My college fund. Everything Dad left to make sure I'd be okay. She spent it on them. The room was silent except for the crackle of the fire. Can we prove it? Martin asked, his lawyer's mind already working. The life insurance payout is a matter of record. We can subpoena her financial records. I don't want to take her to court, I interrupted. Not yet, anyway. I want something else first. What's that? Grandpa asked. I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. I want to go home. I want to be there when they get back. I want to see their faces when they realize I didn't just disappear. I left. And I want them to know exactly what they lost. On January 2nd, at 6:47 p.m., I was sitting in the attic room I'd occupied for 8 years. But I was a different person now. I wore new clothes, nothing flashy, just well-made jeans and a cashmere sweater Grandpa had insisted on buying me. My hair was styled, my new contact lenses made my eyes stand out. I had my laptop open, and my acceptance letter to Columbia was pulled up. On the screen, I heard the garage door open. Suitcase wheels on hardwood. Voices, loud and happy, talking about their perfect vacation. Can't believe how beautiful it was. We should go back next year. Brandon, honey, help your sister with her bags. Mom, I'm starving. Is there anything to eat? No one said my name. No one asked if I was home. No one wondered how I'd spent the past 2 weeks. I waited, listened to them unpack, sort through mail, start looking through the kitchen for dinner options. Finally, my mother's voice, annoyed. Where is that girl? The house is a mess. Eleanor, get down here and help with these bags. I closed my laptop, picked it up, and walked downstairs. They were all in the living room, tanned and relaxed, surrounded by luggage. Melissa was showing off her engagement ring to Mom and Richard. Brandon was on his phone. No one noticed me at first. Oh, there you are, Mom said without looking up. Take these bags upstairs and start a load of laundry. She finally looked at me and stopped mid-sentence. What did you do to your hair? Got it cut. I stayed where I was, laptop under my arm. You wasted money on a haircut? Eleanor, we've talked about this. You need to be more responsible. She noticed the laptop. Is that new? Where did you get that? If you've been stealing, I didn't steal it. It was a gift. A gift from who? That grocery store doesn't pay enough for you to afford gifts like that. Richard was looking at me now too, his eyes narrowed. From my grandfather. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Mom's face went white. Your grandfather is dead, she said flatly. My dad's father, James Whitmore, you remember him? The man you got a restraining order against for trying to see me? How did you... Mom stood up fast. Eleanor, you need to understand, that man is dangerous. Is he? I asked pleasantly. Is he dangerous, Mom, or did you just not want him to know what you were doing with Dad's life insurance money? Her face went from white to red. That's none of your business. It's exactly my business. My voice cut through the room like a blade. That money was for me, my college fund, my future. And you spent it all on them. I gestured at Melissa and Brandon, who were watching with wide eyes. I spent it on this family, Mom hissed. On keeping a roof over your head, food on the table. You charged me rent, I said quietly. I was 16 years old and you charged me rent to live in an attic while you bought Brandon a Tesla. You needed to learn responsibility. You forgot me on Christmas. My voice broke on the last word despite my best efforts. You all went to Turks and Caicos, first class, a villa, champagne, and you forgot I existed. Melissa had the grace to look uncomfortable. Eleanor, we thought you'd be fine. There wasn't even a present for me under the tree, not one. 47 presents, and not a single one had my name on it. Oh, honey. Mom's voice took on that saccharine tone she used when other people were around. You're being dramatic. We were going to celebrate when we got back. Don't. I held up my hand. Don't you dare. I spent Christmas alone. I spent it crying in that freezing attic, wondering what I'd done to be so unworthy of love. And do you know what I realized? No one answered. I realized I wasn't unworthy. You were. All of you. I looked at each of them. You're the ones who weren't good enough, not me. Now you listen here. Richard started forward, but I cut him off. No, you listen. I'm 18 now, legally an adult, and I'm leaving. Mom laughed, a harsh sound. Leaving? Eleanor, be realistic. Where are you going to go? You have no money, no prospects. You didn't even apply to college. I got into Columbia. Her mouth snapped shut. Full academic scholarship, early admission. They've already confirmed my enrollment for the fall semester. I pulled out my phone and held up the official email. And my grandfather is covering room and board. That's impossible, Mom whispered. You couldn't have. There's no way. Did you really think I was stupid? I asked softly. Is that what you told yourself while you were stealing my future? That I was too dumb to succeed anyway? That I wasn't worth the investment? I shook my head. I had a 4.0 GPA and a perfect SAT score. I did it all while working 20 hours a week at the grocery store, doing all the housework here and living in an unheated attic. Imagine what I could have done if I'd had even a fraction of the support you gave them. Melissa was crying now. Ellie, I didn't know. Yes, you did. You all did. You just didn't care. I pulled out the envelope I'd been carrying. This is for you, Richard. It's notification that you're being removed as the executor of my father's estate and all access to information about my trust fund, which, by the way, is worth significantly more than you thought. My grandfather's lawyers will be contacting you about restitution for the life insurance money Mom misappropriated. I placed it on the coffee table. And this, I pulled out another envelope, is my formal notice that I'm moving out. I'll be back tomorrow with movers for my few possessions. You can convert the attic to whatever you want. I won't be here to clean it. Eleanor, you're making a mistake. Mom reached for me, but I stepped back. The only mistake I made was believing you when you said Dad's parents didn't want me. That I was a burden, that I deserved to be invisible. I picked up my coat from where I'd left it on the stairs. I have a family now, people who actually wanted to find me, who kept my room ready for 8 years, who noticed I was missing. You ungrateful little... Richard's face was purple. After everything we've done for you, what exactly have you done for me? I asked calmly. Specifically, name one thing. He opened and closed his mouth, unable to answer. I walked to the door, then paused and looked back. They were all frozen there, like a twisted tableau of the family that had never been. By the way, I called Child Protective Services. I documented everything. The attic bedroom, the rent you charged a minor, the neglect, all of it. They're opening an investigation. You might want to get a lawyer. You can't. They won't believe, Mom sputtered. I have 8 years of bank statements showing you charged me rent while I was underage. I have photos of my living conditions. I have testimony from my guidance counselor, who wondered why I was always wearing the same clothes and looked malnourished. I smiled. Oh, and I have my grandmother's diary, the one you thought you destroyed when you donated Dad's things. She left it to me. It's very detailed about your threats to keep me from them, your demands for money to let them see me, your explicit statements that you were going to use Dad's life insurance however you wanted. That's fraud, Mom, and blackmail. Her face was gray now. "You'll be hearing from our lawyers," I said. "Enjoy the rest of your evening." I walked out the front door to where Marcus was waiting by the Mercedes, and I didn't look back. Act 4, the climax. The next few months unfolded like a dream I was afraid to wake from. Grandpa enrolled me in a private college preparatory course to help me transition to Columbia. We spent evenings by the fire while he told me stories about Dad, about my grandmother, about the family history I'd been denied. "You have her eyes," he'd say, looking at the portrait of my grandmother that hung in the library. "Catherine's eyes. She was fierce, your grandmother. She would have fought armies for you." "She did," I said softly, thinking of the diary I'd mentioned to my mother. It was real, and it was heartbreaking. Page after page of my grandmother's attempts to find me, her anguish at being cut off, her determination to make sure I knew I was loved. February 14th, 2017. Jennifer threatened to move states again if we don't stop harassing her. The lawyers say we have no legal standing. I'm adding another $50,000 to Ellie's trust. At least I can give her that. At least she'll have something when she finds her way home. December 25th, 2018. I updated Ellie's room today. She'd be 13 now. I wonder if she still likes blue, or if she's discovered new colors. James says I'm torturing myself, but keeping her room ready helps me believe she'll come back. September 3rd, 2020. The investigator found a school record. Eleanor is in 10th grade, straight A's. My brilliant girl, just like her father. I wanted to show up at that school so badly, but the lawyers say Jennifer would claim harassment and we'd lose any chance of contact. It's killing me to be this close and unable to reach her. The diary entries ended 3 weeks before she died. The last one simply said, "James, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And Ellie isn't home yet. Don't give up. Bring our girl home." While I was settling into my new life, my old life was collapsing spectacularly. Mom had severely underestimated what resources my grandfather had access to. Martin Chambers, it turned out, was one of the most respected estate attorneys in the country, and he was furious on my behalf. "Your mother committed several crimes," he explained during a meeting in early February. "Fraud for misrepresenting the terms of your father's life insurance, exploitation of a minor for charging you rent while you were underage, parental alienation for deliberately cutting you off from your paternal family despite having no legal cause." "Can we prove all of that?" I asked. He smiled. "Eleanor, your mother kept every receipt, every bank statement. She documented her own crimes because she never thought you'd have the resources to come after her." He spread papers across the conference table. "She claimed you as a dependent on her taxes while charging you rent. That's tax fraud. She had you paying for your own food and necessities while claiming you were a financial burden. That's evidence of neglect. And the emails we subpoenaed between her and your grandmother? She explicitly demanded money from your grandmother in exchange for contact with you. That's extortion." I stared at the papers, my stomach churning. I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was criminal. "It gets worse," Martin said grimly. "Or better, depending on your perspective. We've also discovered that Richard is an attorney. Did you know that?" I shook my head. "He works in family law. He knew exactly what they were doing was illegal, and he helped cover it up. He's likely to be disbarred. And Brandon?" Martin pulled out another file. "The Tesla and his other cars? Bought with a loan your mother co-signed, using the same account that held your father's life insurance money. We can prove a direct misappropriation of funds meant for you." "What does all of this mean?" I asked. Grandpa reached over and took my hand. "It means we can make them pay back every penny they stole from you, with interest. It means Richard will lose his law license. It means your mother will have a criminal record. It means—" He paused. "It means you can have justice, Ellie, real justice. But only if you want it." I thought about Christmas morning, about the attic room, about 8 years of being invisible. "I want it," I said. The lawsuit was filed in March. The local news picked it up because Richard was a moderately well-known family attorney. The irony wasn't lost on the reporters. "Prominent attorney accused of exploiting stepdaughter," read the headline. My mother called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. Instead, I was at Columbia for an accepted students' day, walking through the campus where my father had walked, sitting in classrooms where I'd soon be sitting, feeling alive in a way I never had before. Melissa reached out through Instagram. I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was this bad. Please talk to me. I blocked her. She'd known. They'd all known. Being willfully blind was just another form of cruelty. By April, things were moving fast. Richard was suspended from his firm pending an ethics investigation. Mom had been forced to hire a lawyer she couldn't afford. The house, which I learned was mortgaged to the hilt to pay for all their luxury spending, was going into foreclosure. And Brandon? Brandon had been arrested for credit card fraud. Turned out he'd been opening cards in Richard's name and maxing them out. The Tesla? Bought with a fraudulent loan application. When the creditors came calling and found out about the lawsuit, everything unraveled. They're imploding, Martin told me in May, a week before my high school graduation. Your mother wants to settle. What are the terms? Full restitution of the life insurance money, $500,000 plus interest, so about $680,000 total. Richard agrees to surrender his law license. They both sign affidavits admitting to the neglect and exploitation, and they agree to have no contact with you for the rest of their lives. That's it? I asked. No criminal charges? Martin exchanged a look with Grandpa. We could push for criminal charges. The evidence is solid, but Eleanor, that would mean trials, testimony, dragging this out for years. It would keep them in your life, even as adversaries. Sometimes the best revenge isn't punishment. It's freedom. I thought about what I wanted. Did I want to see my mother in prison? Did I want to testify in court about the attic room and the forgotten Christmas and the 8 years of invisibility? Or did I want to move on? To go to Columbia and study literature like I'd always dreamed? To spend time with my grandfather while I still had him? To build the life I'd been denied? I'll take the settlement, I said. But I want one more thing. What's that? I want the house. Grandpa looked startled. Ellie, that house? I know, but that house is where my father grew up before he met Mom, isn't it? She told me they bought it together, but I found the deed records. It was his family home that he inherited. She's been living in a house that should have been mine. Martin's smile was sharp. I'll add it to the terms. On May 15th, my high school graduation day, the settlement was finalized. I walked across the stage to receive my diploma, summa cum laude, valedictorian, full scholarship to Columbia, and my grandfather stood and cheered louder than anyone else in that auditorium. My mother, Richard, Melissa, and Brandon weren't there. They'd pulled her kids from school 2 weeks earlier, the same day they'd moved out of their foreclosed house and into a 2-bedroom apartment across town. The house, my house now, sat empty. I'd already decided what to do with it. In July, right before I left for Columbia's summer orientation program, I met with a nonprofit organization that provided housing for young adults aging out of foster care. They were desperate for space, particularly for young women who had nowhere to go. We can house 8 girls here, the director said, walking through the rooms with me. Give them a safe place while they go to school or work, save money, build a life. Are you sure you want to donate it? I looked around the living room where I'd spent so many Christmas mornings waiting for my father, where I'd later spent years being invisible, where I'd finally walked out with my head high. I'm sure, I said. But I have one condition. There's an attic room. I want it completely renovated, insulated, heated, proper bedroom. And I want it to always go to whichever girl needs it most. I want someone to look at that room and know that they matter, that they're not forgotten. The director's eyes were misty. We can do that. I left for Columbia in August with 2 suitcases full of new clothes, my father's Columbia t-shirt carefully folded on top, and a laptop loaded with photos of my grandmother, my grandfather, and the family I'd been denied but had finally found. Grandpa drove me himself, refusing to let Marcus do it. I missed your first day of kindergarten, he said as we pulled up to my dorm. I missed 8 years of first days. I'm not missing this one. My roommate was a girl from California named Sophie, who took one look at my side of the room. The photos of my grandfather, the framed copy of my grandmother's last diary entry, my father's shirt hanging in a place of honor, and said, "You look like you have good stories." "I do," I said. "I really do." Act 5. The Epilogue. It's Christmas Eve, 10 years later, and I'm standing in the kitchen of my grandfather's estate. My estate now, though I still think of it as his, basting a turkey while my husband Daniel steals bites of stuffing and our 3-year-old daughter Catherine, named for the grandmother she'll never meet, attempts to help by arranging cookies on a plate. "Higher, Mama," she demands, and I lift her up so she can place a star-shaped cookie at the very top of her arrangement. The house is full. Marcus is in the living room with his daughter and grandchildren, arguing cheerfully about which Christmas movie to watch. My best friend Sophie from Columbia is here with her fiancé. Daniel's parents arrived yesterday from Boston. The dining room table is set for 15. This is my 10th Christmas with my real family. My 10th Christmas being remembered. Through the kitchen window, I can see the gardens that bloom so beautifully in spring. Beyond them, in the small family cemetery on the property, are the graves of my grandmother and my father. We moved Dad's remains here 5 years ago. He's home now with his mother, on the land where he grew up. I visit them both every week. Grandpa is in his study. He's 84 now, slowed by age but still sharp, video calling with the director of the Eleanor Whitmore House, as they'd renamed my old home. 8 young women currently live there, all working or in school, all building lives they'd been told they couldn't have. "Ellie, come here," Grandpa calls. "They want to show you something." I wipe my hands and walk to the study, Catherine on my hip. On the screen, 8 smiling faces crowd together in a familiar living room. But it's not familiar anymore. It's been transformed into something warm and welcoming, nothing like the cold showcase it was when my mother lived there. "Merry Christmas, Dr. Whitmore," they chorus. I finished my PhD in literature last spring, a journey that started with my Columbia degree and never stopped. "Merry Christmas," I say back. "How are you all?" They take turns giving updates. Jasmine got into med school. Keisha landed a job at a law firm. Maria's baby took his first steps. They're thriving, these girls who'd been forgotten by their families just like I was. "We hung your picture in the attic room," the director says, turning the camera. There on the wall of the renovated attic, now a beautiful bedroom with heating and insulation and windows that let in light, is a photo of me at 18 standing in front of Columbia on my first day. Below it, a plaque reads, "You are not forgotten. You matter. You are loved." "That's perfect," I whisper, my throat tight. After we hang up, Grandpa pulls me into a hug. "Your grandmother would be so proud of you. Everything you've accomplished, the lives you've changed. I was just paying forward what you did for me," I say. "No." He pulls back to look at me. "We gave you what you deserved, what you should have had all along, what you did with it. That's all you, Ellie." There's a knock at the front door, and I hear Daniel answering it. Voices in the hall. When I walk out to see who it is, I find a woman in her late 20s, standing awkwardly in the foyer. It takes me a moment to recognize her. Melissa. She's aged hard. Her hair is dull, her clothes cheap, her face lined with stress. She looks at me, at my beautiful home, my designer casual clothes, my healthy glow, and her eyes fill with tears. "I know I have no right to be here," she says quickly. "I know you probably hate me, but I needed to see you, to say I'm sorry." The words tumble out. "For everything, for not standing up for you. For taking everything while you got nothing, for," her voice breaks, "for forgetting you that Christmas." I study her. I could be cruel. God knows I've earned the right. But I think about the girl I was 10 years ago, crying in an attic, believing she was worthless. And I think about the woman I am now, surrounded by love and success and family. "How did you find me?" I ask quietly. "I've been following your career. You're not exactly low profile anymore." Dr. Eleanor Whitmore, best-selling author, professor at Columbia, philanthropist. She laughs wetly. "You did everything you said you would. Everything we told you that you couldn't. What do you want, Melissa?" "Nothing. I swear, I want nothing. I'm in therapy now, working through things, making amends, and I needed you to know that I'm sorry, that I was wrong, that you deserved so much better than what we gave you." Catherine squirms to get down, and I set her on her feet. She immediately runs to Daniel, who's appeared in the doorway. You have a daughter, Melissa whispers. She's beautiful. I do. I take a breath. How's your mom? She's not well. The stress of everything broke her. She's in assisted living now. Early onset dementia. Melissa wipes her eyes. Brandon's in prison. Richard drinks. And I'm working 2 jobs trying to keep my head above water. The life we had, the money, all of it. It was built on lies and stolen from you. And when it all collapsed, we had nothing. We were nothing. Part of me, the part that's still 18 and crying on Christmas morning, wants to feel satisfaction at this. But mostly, I just feel tired. I'm sorry your life is hard, I say, and I mean it. I really am, but Melissa, I can't fix it for you. I can't give you absolution or money or a place in my life. What your family did to me, what you were part of, that broke something that can't be repaired. I know, she says quickly, I know, and I'm not asking for that. I just needed you to know that you were right about all of it. We didn't deserve you. She reaches into her bag and pulls out a small wrapped box. This is yours. I found it in Mom's storage unit. I thought you should have it. She sets it on the entrance table and backs toward the door. Merry Christmas, Eleanor. I mean that. You deserve all the happiness in the world. She leaves, and I stare at the box. Daniel comes up behind me, wraps his arms around my waist. You okay? Yeah. I lean into him. I really am. Later, after dinner, when Catherine is asleep and the guests are in the living room watching It's a Wonderful Life, I open the box in the quiet of my bedroom. Inside is a silver locket I haven't seen in 15 years. My father gave it to my mother on their first anniversary. Inside are pictures of my parents on their wedding day, young and happy and full of hope for a future they'd never have. There's a note in Melissa's handwriting. I think he'd want you to have this. He'd be proud of who you became. I fasten the locket around my neck and go downstairs to where my family is waiting. My real family. The one that remembered me, that searched for me, that never gave up. And the one I've built for myself. A husband who cherishes me. A daughter who'll never doubt her worth. Friends who chose to love me. In the living room, Grandpa has Catherine on his lap, showing her the ornaments on the tree and telling her stories about her great-grandfather. She listens with wide eyes, absorbing the family history she'll grow up knowing, that she'll never be denied. This is what my mother tried to take from me, this connection, this belonging, this love. She failed. I found my way home despite her, and I built something beautiful from the wreckage she created. As if reading my thoughts, Grandpa looks up and catches my eye. He smiles. And in that smile is everything: pride, love, relief, joy, all the emotions of a grandfather who lost his granddaughter and got her back, who spent 8 years searching and finally found her. Come here, Ellie, he says, patting the seat next to him. Help me tell Kate about the year your father dressed up as Santa and got stuck in the chimney. I settle in beside them, Catherine immediately climbing into my lap, and I listen to the story I've heard a dozen times before. The fire crackles. The tree lights twinkle. Outside, snow begins to fall, perfect and clean, covering everything in white. This is my life now. Not the one I was born into, but the one I fought for. The one I deserved all along. It's exactly 10 years since that Christmas morning when I woke up to silence and forgot presents and a family that had erased me. 10 years since I called my grandfather and came home. And every single one of those years has been filled with people who remembered, who noticed, who loved me. 10 Christmases of being seen, 10 years of mattering, 10 years of finally being home. Merry Christmas to me.